What conspiracy theories do you absolutely, 100%, believe are true? Any positive mention of a brand on Reddit's front page is a strategically planned paid-for placement. I work in marketing and it's extremely difficult to get people to organically mention your brand name online, unless they are complaining. Beyond that, it's even more unlikely that a bunch of internet strangers will then see your mention and upvote it like they actually care. Microsoft and Apple fake a rivalry to drum up interest and drive sales. Social media companies intentionally manipulate trending topics through the use of bot accounts to try and influence the news or cover up certain stories. Area 51 has nothing there and it's just a cover for an even bigger underground base in a different state. Imagine all the heinous and negligent stuff your government did. I'm sure that's not even the tip of the iceberg compared to what classified. That 90% of our AskReddit posts are copy-pasted. Teen girl celebrity breakdowns are carefully orchestrated once she gets to a certain age as a way to increase the former child star's visibility and profile so she can disappear for a while and be reintroduced as a more adult entertainer. That Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first man in space, he was the first man to come back from space. Aliens are real but they're just like us and haven't invented the technology to invade us. Donald Trump never planned to get elected. He wanted to lose, blame the media and fake polling on the loss. Then start the Trump Media Network where you would get real news. Cloud gaming is nothing more than a ploy to further eradicate the concept of owning products that you buy in the digital age, along with trying to further justify the rampant abuse of microtransactions at the cost of everything else about them. These games are streamed, not sold, so how else are we gonna pay for them? It should not be encouraged in any form. Fast food places don't have source menus because it saves them a lot of money to have it gated behind having to ask. The specialty sauces are expensive and they save by using this tactic. The Coca-Cola company made new Coke taste bad on purpose. They wanted to switch over from sugar to high fructose corn syrup in the sodas. New Coke was designed just to cleanse people's palate. Once all of the old Coke was gone, they reintroduced it as Coke Classic, causing a huge spike in sales, and no more sugar. DB Cooper never got off the airplane. At least until the plane had landed. The whole thing has the feeling of a magic trick. And I'm pretty sure opening a plane door at 10,000 feet created an appropriate 1 to 2 second distraction. Woman's clothes have either no pockets or crumby pockets to promote handbag sales. At Area 51, there are no aliens, but there is tech which sounds exactly like some of the things Nikola Tesla described in some letters. The FBI seized almost all his documents. Some even ended up in the hands of Donald Trump's uncle. This is actually a verified truth, but the government could not understand how Tesla's inventions worked, so they had to try and reverse engineer it. Laser story sounds plausible if you take out the alien factor. To tie into this, ancient civilizations harnessed electricity, so some of these things could be from ancient times. They also found traces of ancient civilizations in Antarctica. I doubt there are aliens involved, though. That JFK was assassinated by the government. For example, when everyone blamed LHO for the murder of JFK, the government was on board. But when LHO was going on trial, he was shot, so he didn't even get to tell his side of the story. The incognito tab is just a tool the government uses to gather everything people want to hide in just one place. I want to believe so many of these. But I try to apply a simple rule. If it can be explained as the consequence of stupid people acting independently, or can by clever people acting in concert, it's probably a Jar Jar Binks was meant to be a Sith Lord. The military-industrial complex perpetuating global conflicts for contracts and weapon sales. The CIA and FBI and other bodies all conspired to kill MLK and use James Earl Ray as a scapegoat, since Ray committed other crimes in the past, because MLK supported many aspects of socialism. Even MLK's family believes the government did it. Men in Black, someone has to tell people to shut the fudge up. That the face app that people are using to make them look old store the photos for facial recognition. Doctors only encourage circumcision because it's another procedure and they get paid for every procedure they do. The Kennedy assassination was an inside job. There was a second shooter and Oswald was a patsy. Charlie Sheen's breakdown was a facade and he just wanted out of all of his contracts and for people to leave him alone after having a little bit of fun in the news for a few weeks. Not that it's a conspiracy, more a theory, but the McCanns totally killed Maddie. The superpower countries are controlled by hyper wealthy people. Aliens are real, they just study our planet like a scientist studying a colony of ants. Super Bowl XL was unfairly officiated in favor of the Steelers, and not by accident. The DARE program was created to get kids introduced to drugs so that police departments could get more people in. Hitler faked his death and escaped to Venezuela, then to the Antarctic where the Nazis had established a secret underground base. The US government knew about HIV for way longer than they let on. They saw it was mostly targeting minority and gay communities though, so they let it do its thing. Nothing was done about it until it spread to the wrong people and public pressure forced Reagan to acknowledge the AIDS and actually do something about it. I believe the earth is round. The Soulja, male birth control, will never be approved in the Western world. It's a one-time procedure with no side effects. The industry can't make as much money on this compared to female birth control. Entire industries will dry up, less children, less marriages, less divorces, less schools, etc. PETA is funded by the meat industry. Khloe Kardashian is the offspring of O.J. Simpson. 9/11 wasn't an inside job, but the CIA knew it was going to happen and said nothing. Area 51. We gonna get them aliens? This question keeps being asked on Reddit every few weeks so that the government can monitor what information needs to be kept better hidden. Sun is Ness. That DB Cooper survived the jump and lived. The 4 men who escaped from Alcatraz made it. The earth is round. The moon landing actually fudging happened. That Trump has been being extra racist lately to distract people from the possible pedophilia charges. The Pizzagate alt-right conspiracy is highlighted by the media as an absurd conspiracy theory that resulted in violence to cover the fact that that is in fact going on all over the place. Donald Trump Jr. is not the offspring of Donald Trump Sr. Jr. has a dimpled chin, which is an autosomal dominant genetic trait. If there's a kid that has a dimpled chin, mom or dad pass the gene onto that kid. Ivana doesn't have a dimpled chin, and neither does Donald Sr. And we know 100% she's the mother. Vince McMahon has a dimpled chin though. And he's been a close family friend for decades. Ancient aliens were real. Birds are a myth. Government surveillance devices. Stay woke. Something bad happened to Shelley Miscavige. In all likelihood, she's no longer alive. The royal family had Diana and Odie murdered, and she was quite likely pregnant at the time of her death. That all Americans are evil lizard aliens here to destroy the DPRK. Elvis is alive and living on the moon. NBA lottery using a frozen envelope to give the Knicks the first pick. That Lyme disease was originally created by the US government to weaponize ticks. Edit. Some links for the curious. https://www.thego-ardien.com/us-news/pentagon-review-weaponized-ticks-lyme-disease https://sites.newportz.edu/tiktok/social-attitudes/story-by-smiranda-do-me-true. Some members of the US government either directly stage false flags to justify war abroad, or they know of attacks well often in advance through covert intel and they choose not to intercept it or prevent it to justify war abroad. I believe the education system was hijacked decades ago to make each generation more obedient and docile for control. Most charities are just tax deductions and don't help the cause. Fort Knox is empty. Not any single conspiracy, but I don't understand how people can't wrap their heads around the idea that governments and corporations have had and continue to have people murdered to protect their interests, especially when their interests are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Sure, it's an incredibly depressing and difficult truth to accept, but it's entirely plausible and makes logical sense. None. Life is much simpler than we imagine. At the end, it's all about money and power. And only the smart ones learn early enough that life is about living. Pizzagate was intentionally created as a fake conspiracy to discredit any claims of elite pedophilia human trafficking rings. It largely worked until Jeffrey Epstein was busted. Further prediction: Epstein will largely escape justice due to the number of powerful people he is associated with. This question is asked multiple times a week, I feel. Always fun. Traditionally, I give the same answer every time, but this time, I'll change it up. The NBA is scripted. Not play for play, but it's controlled chaos. They force the cookie to crumble in a certain direction, so to speak. It's so bad that I honestly feel it's just barely a notch above professional wrestling at this point. Americans are just as brainwashed as some North Koreans, but in a far more advanced way. Game theory and film theory are hosted by Matt Pitt. The government killed MLK. Robert McNamara, a student of siege warfare, being tasked with the defense of the country after a nuclear holocaust, intentionally increased the average weight of Americans and began factory farming to provide us with a food source safe from fallout. Why? Read his Fallout Protection Handbook and look at a graph of obesity in America since the Vietnam War. $$ is Ashley Teasdale. Referees of pro sports throwing games in unnoticeable ways during playoff season in order to draw more ad revenue. Hey, mom told me it's my turn to ask that this week. I believe the US government has been funding NASA for decades. Michael Jackson is still alive. He faked his death to stop media attention, I think. I saw a video and they literally showed that some people photoshopped a pic of him to make it look like he was dead. Also, there's evidence the funeral was staged. And people apparently got a video of him walking around after he died. Trudeau is the son of Castro. That the Democrats and Republicans literally control everything, but it's the rich that really run it. Disney fired James Gunn only because the Fox merger was happening. I'm confident they were aware of his prior tweets way before. But they didn't want it to affect the merger. Lo and behold, merger is all but complete and they rehire him. The Big Bang. Trump wanted to lose the presidency and still wants out. He wanted to lose because running would maybe boost ratings of Celebrity Apprentice, but he unfortunately won and the rest is history. Fort Knox does not have anywhere near the gold reserve it is said to. Area 51 is a misdirect so that a true military base can actually conduct studies without coverage. I truly believe there are other creatures in the galaxy that are as intelligent as humans. Either they just know how messed up we are and never come down knowing they could start a galactic war, or no one knows how to space travel. BuzzFeed harvests Reddit for articles. I've had it happen with one of my own comments. Jar Jar is a Sith Lord. MJ went to play baseball because he had a major gambling problem, was betting on NBA games, and it was to avoid being suspended. He was way too good of an athlete to do that randomly. Why leave what your bread and butter is? The diabetes 100% has a cure. Money is too big in that industry to throw it away by curing it. PETA was created by the meat industry. I don't remember the exact details, but there was some theory going around Reddit about Mattress Firm participating in some money laundering scheme or some spit like that due to there being a store on almost every block in some areas. They even started closing stores that were in close proximity to each other once the theory started gaining traction. You can't tell me that isn't at least a little sketchy. Haram was a planned terrorist attack. That lobbyists, is that how you type it? Control every aspect of legal judicial area of life. We never landed on the sun. Trump 100% has dementia. Earth isn't flat. while I don't believe 9/11 was an inside job, I do think we will never be told the entire story, and I don't believe for a second that a plane crashed into the Pentagon. Finland isn't real. I 100% believe that the joke about the French surrendering meme was made by the government because the French wouldn't join the war in Iraq. Nikola Tesla wasn't who we think he is. A group of scientists used a crazed vagrant named Nikola Tesla to publish their scientific ideas during uncertain political times. The government asks this question on Reddit every few weeks to see if anyone is catching on to their many conspiracies. That social media manipulate the culture by dictating what's considered good and what's evil. This includes, for example, the famous situation where some human rights activist that got a Twitter account banned, and any person supporting her would get permbanned too. Kyle Balls has never ejaculated in a porn. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yetis exist. That only the government asks this question to keep tabs on what the public actually knows.